This program is brought to you by Emory University.
On March 16, 2015, the Center for Faculty Development and Excellence and the Office of Global Strategy and Initiatives at Emory University hosted a panel discussion about Fulbright Scholar Grants. The panelists, all of whom received Fulbright grants, shared their experiences of putting together successful grant applications and described the impact that living and working abroad has had on their work and their lives. The panelists were Cate McCraw, Program Director with the Fulbright Scholar Program, Jenny Foster, Associate Professor of Nursing at the Emory School of Nursing, Joe Crespino, Professor of History at Emory, and Lee Pasikow, Business Librarian at the Guayzeta Business Library. In this video, the panelists respond to a series of questions about Fulbright grants.
There are a number of resources that we have at CIES. Some of them are on our website, some of them are through events that we run. Also, the staff, myself, and other program officers for different regions are always more than happy and very much enjoy speaking with prospective applicants. Feel free to call or email anybody that you see on the website, and every award in the awards catalog. At the bottom of the award, there's contact information for the relevant program staff, especially this time of year between February when the competition opens and August when it closes. We're on the phone and emailing with applicants all the time, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Whether it be very specific, like is my discipline preferred or acceptable for this specific award in this certain country, or we have applicants call all the time and say, I'm in environmental science, I don't have a region of preference, can you help me figure out a starting point for how I can find a good award for me? So I would definitely encourage you to call or email, contact us directly. Other things on our website, we have some resources including excerpts from past successful applications, past project statements that have made it through the review process. We have checklists, application checklists, kind of an overview, description, and samples of each application component. So project statement, guidance on letters of reference, guidance on how to craft a Fulbright-like CV and resume. There's also, we have frequent webinars. I mentioned this in the workshop between February and August, and some throughout the rest of the year as well, where our outreach team and our region-specific program staff leads webinars on various topics, whether it be how to craft a successful application, or one that's going to be scheduled soon is opportunities outside capital cities in Europe. They could be discipline specific. So we do those. There are multiple webinars every week, and if you can't attend live, those are also archived on our website, so the audio and PowerPoint is archived. And then last, I think one really great resource is actually that we can connect, just like Kevin mentioned, connecting prospective applicants with program alumni. The Fulbright Scholar Directory on our website provides a listing of alumni of the program, gives their project title, so you get a snapshot of what they did and when and where. And I think it can be really a great resource for people who are at the initial stages of an application to say, well, I'm interested in going to India, say, and my field is science education. Where have previous grantees in science education affiliated in India? Alumni, we find, are almost always not only willing but really happy to speak with prospective applicants. There's also the Visiting Scholar Directory posted online as well, and we encourage U.S. applicants to reach out to international faculty that are currently in the U.S. To talk to them, get a first-hand perspective on what the higher ed landscape is in their countries. So a variety of resources on the website, and if you have any questions, even if it's where to find something on the website, please pick up the phone and call us. We really enjoy working with applicants. So all of our contact information is online.
I learned from the first to the second. With the first one, I was just dealing with the provost, even though my host was going to be the library director. And so we didn't really collaborate too much on a joint project. And when I got there, it was sort of like you had said, a consulting role, when it's really supposed to be both ways. So then I learned with the second project, then I was fortunate in being directly in contact with the library director, and she had just come from the business school. And so then I knew better to focus on a specific project, and this was like trying to work with a librarian who was doing instruction, and in particular also collaborating with faculty. So that's what I learned, to more focus on a particular project instead of just going over and, you know, serving as more like a consultant and explaining what our best practices.
I think one of the challenges for me was that when you think about where you want to, I mean, it's literally the world out there, right? I mean, you're absolutely paralyzed with choices about where you could go, and you could imagine it going 10,000 different ways, you know, and doing and trying to teach something here or study something there. And so, I mean, I spent years going back and forth with my wife about, oh, well, let's go here, or let's go here. And for 6 months, we were determined we were going to go to India. And we were going to go to this part of India. And then, of course, none of that worked out. And then we were going to go to China. And then we were going to go to Scotland for a while. And then, no, we really wanted to go to Italy. I mean, why wouldn't you go to Italy? I mean, everybody wants to go to Italy. And so, you know, it's just, it was, I mean, it was not something that was, we really had talked about this for years and years. I'd say 4 or 5 years before we were in a position to kind of settle on what I wanted to do. And of course, I'd say also the challenges professionally. I did not apply when I was an assistant professor. You know, I did not apply when I was an associate professor. I waited until I was a full professor. And that was significant for me, because I wanted to kind of, there were things I needed to do here. And my scholarship is not abroad. My scholarship is in the United States. And so when I was going to apply, it was very much about kind of taking scholarship that I had done and connecting that with what other people were doing about, you know, and thinking about America. So it made more sense for me to apply once I had kind of achieved a certain standing within my field before doing that. So those are all, you know, those are certainly challenges or things that I thought about as I was applying. In terms of the actual application process itself, I felt like it was very much like any other fellowship application I would apply for, and that because it was a teaching program, there was a teaching element where I talked about how to translate my research to a different audience. You know, that was not a scholarly audience, but none of that was as challenging as just, you know, getting over the paralysis of choice, of having so much kind of so many different directions you could go and do. It's really it can be overwhelming, but it's wonderfully overwhelming.
So I knew that the Fulbright deadlines were always, you know, August 1st. And so a year ago, I figured, well, I can't apply until August of 2014. But this is actually, truth is stranger than fiction. I had a dream that I should look up Chile on the Fulbright thing, and for some reason that I have no idea why, they had extended the deadline for Chile until September 15th. This was like around September 1st. So, you know, I thought this was a great sign, you know, and so I applied, and I actually got waitlisted. And so I had a couple of colleagues from where in Massachusetts, where I lived before coming to Emory, who one of whom was actually a Fulbright scholar in Chile that year, and which I only found out later. And I contacted him, and he gave me some very useful advice for the writing of the proposal, which I hadn't really considered. And he talked about, there are some countries, maybe you talked about this in the morning, that have their own Fulbright Commission versus countries that don't, and Chile is one of the ones that has their own Fulbright Commission. So they have a lot of they have a lot of voice in sort of what they're really looking for. And one of the things that he told me about Chile was that they really want their faculty publishing more in indexed publications.
And so I was like, well, I just hadn't really put that in the first one. So the second time I submitted was really the same project, but it talked about working with faculty to help them with writing and getting things into, index publications. I don't know if that's the difference, but that was one of the things that it was. So I think the challenge was more sort of, what is it that the country is really looking for? And maybe it was, it could have been that they had more applications, who knows what the process is. But that was I wasn't funded the first time, but I was the second.
I think one of the pleasant surprises for me was to be in Europe and to be connected with other Fulbright scholars in Europe, because the Fulbright program does a wonderful job of connecting you with other scholars. And so we went to Berlin, the famous Berlin conference. It was the 50th anniversary of the Fulbright Berlin conference. And it was fantastic to be there in Berlin. They put you up in the hotel for the week and you meet all of these Fulbright scholars from across Europe. And so that was, I was expecting to make connections in Germany, but I traveled to UK and gave talks. I gave a talk in France and across in several places in Germany. And so I think for me, it was a pleasantly to be surprised about how, about the broad network that Fulbright facilitates.
So I would say, as a specialist, because my project was a little less well-defined, and the same thing that we tell our Fulbrighters here, our visiting one, is to take as much advantage of it as possible. So I know I can think of in the Netherlands, when I would read their college newspaper and just see that there were different conferences going on, again, thinking about what I could bring back to the business school. So I attended conferences. The library director was very open, and when she was traveling to different libraries, so twice I went to different libraries in the country. And I think just really not waiting around and taking advantage of just saying, can you call somebody and get me into this conference, and she was always very willing to do that. And then in Turkey, when it was a lot of like sitting down and going to meetings and stuff, just again, and I was observing a lot, and then when I saw that they were teaching classes, I just said, what are you doing here? And just, taking advantage that I had an opportunity to teach a class. So I just think, and then I did connect to some other Fulbrighters when I was there. So just to, take advantage of the opportunity and to do as many different things as you can.
I'd add one more thing. Another expectation that I had that was upended was that I was just there teaching in English about American history, which is what I teach here. And I thought that it wouldn't be, that I would just do that, to earn my money, and then we would go and travel and then do fun things and that kind of thing. But I didn't expect that I would actually learn about teaching, through the process of teaching German students. And I really did, and it was great because, when you teach American history to American students, they've all had it before, right? They made a 4 and 5 on their AP exams, and they know American history, right? Whereas in Germany, you teach American history, and the German students knew a lot about America, but they didn't know a lot about American history. And so you get to teach something that's exotic and interesting and different, And I'm reminded that, yes, what I teach is exotic and interesting and different. And so it was kind of reinvigorating as a teacher to go. And it's also true that, at Emory we're very proud about our small, course sizes and stuff. And I never have a class that's more than 40 students. And there I had a class of 250 students. And that was interesting and challenging. And it was great because because I had to be the lecturer in the grand lecture hall, and I had to, instead of giving 30 lectures on the history of the American South since the Reconstruction, I had to give 12 of them. And so they had to be grand, and they had to tie a lot of things together and be very thematic. And so all of those were challenges that I had as a teacher at a very basic level that helped me think about the craft of teaching in new ways, and I think was helpful to me and helped, was invigorating.
Obviously, it depends on your field and it depends on the country you're interested in applying for. But I think it's really strong to have a letter from the department where you want to go, and if that's possible. Obviously, if you don't know people there, it's harder to do. But I think that letter carried a lot. And when I first applied and was waitlisted. The university there was really disappointed that I was waitlisted, and they went to the Fulbright Commission themselves and said, what can we do? Is there anything we can do? And the Fulbright people said to them, have her reapply. Just have her reapply. So I guess that the issue is to persevere if it's something that you really want to persevere. The other piece is that because my area of focus has been Latin America, I really wanted to go to either Central or South America, and most likely with Chile because of our previous connections. But I have done a lot of work in the Dominican Republic, and there was one award in the Dominican Republic. But I just decided, I don't know, one award in the Dominican, how likely was I going to be the one person for that whole country? So I think sort of looking at what's available and how many awards people have, and sort of trying to strategize around that, I would advise.
I think it's very hard. The awards are so different, and people are applying from such different positions that my advice would be most relevant for people who are teaching in the humanities and that kind of thing. And some of the advice I've already given. One would be like if you might wait until you're more advanced in your career. It might not be something to do as an assistant professor, just given the expectations for tenure clocks and things like that. But that could be different for different people who are using Fulbrights in different ways. Certainly for people who are doing research, that wouldn't apply at all. My main advice would just be to do it and to apply, because I think it's one of the real benefits of this profession is that we have this chance to go and live abroad and teach abroad and do this. It's we don't make the money that other people make, but we get to go do Fulbright. So you should really do it.
And I would say is to reach out to many different people. The online directory is one, but as Cate said, it goes back to 2006. So there are lots of different, I'm the president of the Fulbright Association, so we have a database of 1,000 people, and those are, it goes back further, so people who have had Fulbrights a while ago, and at different universities. And then also the students, like I said, there's lots of students here. And so to get to know about the country, and so that's part of your application. And there's always somebody who knows somebody, so maybe there's somebody, at UGA or, SCAD or something like that who will know someone. So, just keep on asking. And, Atlanta is such an international community, so really just ask around and find somebody that will help you with your application.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.